What's up, guys? Welcome back to King Kraken Sports. Mike here, and today I am back with another video. Today we're going to do something similar to the last video, which if you haven't seen, link will be in the description, and at the end there's going to be the little ad link for you to click. We did the all sleeper team the other day, and today we're going to do the all hype team. Just a guy at every position where the hype train needs to slow its roll a little bit. It feels like every year there's always one or two guys overall where the hype train is just kind of out of control by the time the combine comes, by the time the draft comes. It's just insane. But I think this year more than ever, there's been like the most guys where that hype train needs to just really chill the fuck out. So let's get right into this. First off, we're going to look at quarterbacks, and quarterback is a really weak position overall in general this year. I think really there's only maybe four guys that are starters. Maybe Brad Kaya at 5. But one that just absolutely blows the doors off me is this idea that's been floated around a couple of times on NFL.com with some of these anonymous scouts. Always be careful when you hear about anonymous scouts that Davis Webb should be a late first-round pick. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And I'm a Cal fan, guys. Like, I love me some Golden Bears, and I cannot get behind that whatsoever. Davis Webb is right now number 104 on my adjusted board after the combine and everything. He showed some good athleticism, but God, he's a fucking statue when you watch him on tape. He is no Jared Goff in terms of testing, and yeah, I know I'm going to get slaughtered for those Goff comments, but hey, he was my number 6, 7 player on my board last year, something ridiculous like that. It's because of the line, guys. He's got no fucking line and no weapons to throw to. But Davis Webb, if he's a late first round pick, and he's worse than Goff, and Goff gets slaughtered in the media for being a bust already, oh, Davis Webb is something else. Absolutely not. He should not be in first-round consideration. The hype train driven by these anonymous scouts is absolutely insane. Not a fucking chance. He's a day 3 guy. At running back. Running back's really tough because it's a very, very strong class. There are a lot of guys that, have a lot to bring to the table, and I can't really think of any that are really, the hype train is just ridiculous. It's a really tough position to talk about as far as a potential hype guy, so I'm going to go with someone that's talked about that should be drafted in first and second round that for other reasons I'm just not ever going to actually watch the tape, and that's Joe Mixon. I've said it before here in the comment section. I have a very strict policy against recruiting guys with known domestic violence issues, like going into the whole tape watching portion that I know that he's got off the field issues. Like, I scouted D.D. Westbrook, and D.D. Westbrook, his domestic violence issues came out after I had already watched him. So it's not like I can go back and unwatch the tape. I have to put him on my board. I've watched him. It bumps him down a bit. He went from, after I found out, being in that like 70s and 80s range down into the hundreds because, hey, it's at the, especially with Westbrook, it's a case of it's an allegation. I saw what Mixon did, and like I said, personal reasons, I'm not going to dive into why, but absolutely not, is a guy with a known domestic violence issue that I can physically fucking see. I've seen the video. And yeah, he's going to get drafted. I hate to break it to people that think that because he has the video, he's going to go undrafted. He's not. And someone's going to see him, and God help us if he goes number 1, but absolutely not should he. I don't wish him the best of success. I don't wish Tyreek Hill the best of success in the NFL either, so don't go there with me too. Guys with known domestic violence, pass, I do not touch. I didn't watch Jeremy Hill coming out of LSU for that exact same reason. And this isn't necessarily hype, but he's getting far too much attention. And you know what? Think about it this way. The more you hear about something and the more something makes the news, instinctively, I'm a marketing major. I take a lot of consumer behavior courses. Instinctively, that's going to drive up the fact that the more mentions that they hear, the more the more in some cases appealing that option gets. My American subscribers, you probably have a very similar idea of where I'm going with this that I'm just not going to touch. Moving on from that, let's go with a really easy wide receiver prospect, Carlos Henderson. I don't know what the fuck people are seeing on his tape, but I've seen him declared the second best receiver in this class. As early as today, as recent as today, I've seen him as declared as a top 15 player in the class and a top 2 wide receiver. Absolutely not. Nope. I've seen him compared to Corey. What was the kid from Baylor's name? It's going to drive me nuts. Corey Coleman. I've seen him compared to Corey Coleman and Kendall Wright, but with better hands and a better blocker. He's neither of those. He's not a playmaker. He's not electric with the ball in his hands. He's mediocre. He's very mediocre. I've got him right now as my 16th wide receiver and 120th on my board. And here I am hearing that he should go in the top half of round 1. Listen, I didn't even think Corey Coleman was that good last year. Corey Coleman is one of the reasons I adjusted how I do my board, because I tried to fit more to how I thought the board would play out rather than actual talent. If Corey Coleman was in this class, he'd be kind of in that 70 to 80 range and not 20s like he was last year. Carlos Henderson is way worse than Corey Coleman. Corey Coleman was electric. He had maybe inconsistent hands. Maybe Carlos Henderson has slightly better hands, but he's not as fast. He's not as explosive. He's not as good. He's not as good, and I don't understand why he's getting shot up the board like this. It's fucking ridiculous. Tight end, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've only watched 14 tight ends, and I can't really say that there are any where the hype is unwarranted. So I think we're going to skip tight end. There really isn't one. Offensive tackle, Roderick Johnson. Roderick Johnson is kind of in a weird place in a lot of people's boards. Some people have him in around that offensive tackle 4 or 5 region. I've got him at OT 9 right now. Again, not really a position because it's just so weak that there's a guy whose hype is kind of out of control. But coming in, he was talked about as a top 20 pick. I still see him sometimes in round 2 of a draft, sometimes even round 3. He's a day 3 guy. And that's sad that that's considered hype for this offensive line class. I can't get behind this offensive line class. Guard, nothing really there, so we'll just stick to that. I think actually, yeah, we'll just stick to one offensive line, and you know what? I'll go with one more. I'll go with Dan Feeney from Indiana as far as an interior. I just think that there are 2 really, really talented interior offensive linemen in this class, and he's not one of them. He's in a late second round grade for me, and I still see him occasionally, in around that mid to late first round, and I just don't see the appeal. Defensive line, Malik McDowell. This may surprise some people. I know Malik has a lot of fans, and some people will say, well, watch his sophomore tape, and he looks like a top 10 pick. That is true. He came in as a top 10 grade for me at the beginning of the season. Unfortunately, he's now sitting right now at number 60 on my board, and that's because he spends about 50% of the plays on his ass staring at the clouds, and about another 25% of those plays just not putting any effort into it. If you're getting a guy where, at best, like the 25% of plays where he actually decides he wants to give a fuck about football, if you want to draft him in the top 15, be my guest. I'm not touching him anywhere near there. Edge rushers. This is another one where it's really easy for me to point out. Solomon Thomas from Stanford. Solomon Thomas is admittedly a pretty good edge rusher. He made a lot of progress up my board with the combine, and not so much due to him standing out in any one thing, but due to just a couple of other guys that I had rated higher kind of falling off. Like Ryan Anderson had a really bad combine. Charles Harris didn't really have a great combine. Tim Williams, didn't really. Tim Williams had a terrible combine, and DeMarcus Walker fell off a bit, which allowed Solomon Thomas to creep up, and go from like my 10th rated pass rusher to my 7th, while only moving up 2 spots. He's at 38 on my board, but I've seen people say that he should be in consideration at number 2, number 3, number 4. That's way too strong for me, guys. I think that this is a case where one game decided a guy's draft stock, and the bowl game where he was going up against Mitchell Trubisky, yes, Mitchell Trubisky, and the UNC Tar Heels, and I can't put that much stock behind one game, guys. The rest of his tape is really average at best. He's athletic, and he's a guy where I do wish him the best. I think that he's as clean as a whistle off the field, so there's no reason I shouldn't wish him the best. But yeah, I don't see the top 5, top 10 hype that he gets. Linebacker. One guy that I don't really see as far as linebacker would probably be Raekwon McMillan. He's number 5 on my board at linebacker, 67 overall. He's talented, and I think he is a guy where he's going to eventually become like the face of a team's defense. I think a lot of people give him credit for athleticism that I don't really think he shows on tape. He had a pretty good combine, but as far as athleticism on tape, he doesn't really show it. And, that does raise some red flags with me. I mean, I think ideally he'll go at the end of round 2, early round 3, but I've seen some people think that he's going to creep into round 1 or early day 2, and I just, it's another case where it's not really, there's no real all hype, and there's no like out of control hype, but I just think that if you're going to, push a guy about a round before he's ready to go, I think that definitely counts as far as Raekwon. I wish him the best. I think he's a really good player. I can't get behind the round 1 narrative. Moving on to corner, Marlon Humphrey. I like Marlon Humphrey. I think he's a really good player. His technique is really bad. And I could have easily thrown Adoree Jackson into the same group, but Jackson made some progress and Humphrey kind of stayed the same. I just think that with those two guys, their technique is so flawed that I don't think that you can really put a high grade on them. They're, late second, early third round picks, and you guys have seen if there's any real question, but there's a lot of talent there, then they're kind of late second, early third round grades for me a lot of the time. And these guys are speed demons, but they can get beat deep pretty easily because they just don't have it as far as technique. And so for me, Marlon Humphrey, I think because he's a little younger too than Adoree Jackson, that he's, his flaws are kind of magnified, but I think he gets kind of thrown into that top 1 or 2 corners way too easily when he's got so many glaring weaknesses in his game. And last off, again, safety, not really a position where there are a lot of guys that are having massive hype thrown behind them. So Jabril Peppers is actually going to be on my all hype as far as the safeties. And the reason for that is because there are still people that think he's like a top 10 type player, and I can't buy into that. I think he's more of a late first, early second round player. I've got him at 36 on my board. I think he's probably going to be gone by about 25. So there's that 15, 20 pick difference that is it's glaring to me, and I can't get behind it. So I've rambled on for almost 15 minutes now. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. If you guys have any other suggestions for videos, leave them down below, and we'll see what we can do. Until next time, guys, I'm out.